Believe it or not, where I'm standing right now is where arguably the greatest football manager of all time began his managerial career. The team we're going to be seeing today probably have one of the, if not the worst league record of all time. We'll be getting into it all a little bit later in this video, but yeah, I'm back at the abandoned stadium within Falkirk. Not that you'd know this was ever a stadium. I can't believe how overgrown it is. I actually did come here once before for a video, but today I'm doing the full thing. That was during COVID when you couldn't even meet up with anyone. But today I'm actually going to be seeing them play at their current ground, which is, I guess sadly for the fans, the home of their biggest rivals. I'm not sure there's a team in Scotland. I'm sure you can think of some examples. Let me know in the comment section below from around the world. Teams that have had such falls from grace. East Stirlingshire, who we'll be seeing today, aren't the biggest team in the world. They never were the biggest team in the world, but they have been a top tier team. But they did become the first ever club to get relegated from the SPFL for footballing reasons. Look at this. Oh, God damn it. Wow, look, these are the old walls, the boundary of the stadium behind. This is like where the goal would have once stood, like around here somewhere. Would have been going off to the corner flag over there, and this would have been literally like the pitch. It's quite amazing really that behind me was once the entrance to a top tier stadium in Scotland. Look at it today. In 1974, Sir Alex Ferguson, not yet a Sir obviously, became the manager of East Stirlingshire. He was getting paid around £40 a week and became their manager at age just 32. And when he did join here as manager, he obviously hadn't yet been to Manchester United, but Man United that year that he joined East Stirlingshire were in the second division of English football. Interestingly though, Alex Ferguson did actually play for Falkirk during his playing career, which are East Stirlingshire's main traditional rivals and which is where they now play, the Falkirk Stadium. East Stirlingshire have played top tier football before. All right, it was for 2 seasons and both of those seasons they finished bottom and went straight back down again. But this is the Scottish League table from 1933, and as you can see, look, they're in there with some big boys. There's some big clubs in there that you'll recognise, and some that you probably may not recognise as well, but one of the teams that isn't in that top division that you would recognise is Hibs. Hibs were in the second division that season, meaning that East Stirlingshire were actually above Hibs that year. And then they also played in the top tier in 1963. Yeah, the 63-64 season, they finished bottom on 12 points behind Queen of the South, Third Lanark, Airdrie, Falkirk, again their rivals, as well as some big clubs obviously in the league at that time: Aberdeen, Hearts, Celtic, Killie, Rangers. But yeah, if we look at League 2 or the Division 2 around that time, Morton won the league that year. Arbroath were in it, Montrose, Dumbarton, Stenhousemuir, Raith Rovers, Berwick, Rangers, Ayr United. Some big clubs in there that you would sort of recognise as being league clubs today in Scotland. However, yeah, they've sort of remained league clubs. Some of them have gone on and thrived and done really, really well between that time and now, whereas East Stirlingshire have obviously done the opposite. And while that was a long time ago and they did remain a league club for a long time, like I say, they're now non-league and they're often forgotten about in the Scottish football landscape. Right, let's get me out of here. Wow, that old wall behind me that I can see there must have been the old wall of the stadium once upon a time. Now, just have a look at this. This is the league finishes and the league positions of East Stirlingshire throughout their history, up until when they got relegated out of the Football League, like I've already said. And as you can see, they're sort of second tier for the majority of their history. The third tier wasn't always a thing. That got brought in later. They were third tier, then they've been fourth tier, as you can see. But just look at sort of mid-2000s. You can just see one straight line at the bottom there where they just finished bottom of the league every year. Now, again, I've mentioned this a lot. I've already sort of touched on it in this video. There's not always been promotion and relegation in Scotland. It has always been a little bit like a Super League, you could argue, where you had to vote your way in or wait for someone to fold so you could actually come in. There was no footballing merit to get into the actual like top 4 leagues of Scotland like there is now. It still needs changing. That's a conversation for another day. But East Stirlingshire, yeah, they finished bottom of what is now League 2. It could have been like the 3rd division back then, I'm not sure, but they finished bottom of the 4th tier 5 years in a row without ever going down. Absolutely mad stuff. They've got to be the only club in the world that have ever done something like that, I suppose you could say. Again, let me know in the comments if there's any others. Does that make them the worst league club of all time? I think you could make the argument that it potentially does, especially during that time. It's something that they're quite well known for up here in Scotland, and I'm sure it's not something the fans are particularly proud of, but maybe the people at the club as well. But it gives people a talking point when sort of discussing East Stirlingshire, I suppose. They finished bottom of League 2 once again in 2015-16, and by then the Pyramid playoff game was actually a thing. Again, it probably does need changing, as I've mentioned many times before, but they came up against Edinburgh City, who beat them on aggregate and have been a league club ever since. They're doing well, they're in League 1 and they're thriving and doing okay, but East Stirlingshire got relegated, becoming the only, well, the first team, there's been a few now, but they became at that time the only team to have ever been relegated out of Scotland's top 4 leagues because of a football result. Anyhow, before we go and check out their new stadium they're just sharing with Falkirk, it's an impressive stadium. I don't know how many people they're going to get, especially tonight, a rainy Friday night in a cup match against a much smaller team traditionally. I don't know how many they get for a league game, to be honest, let alone a game like today. Just take a look at what their old ground looked like. We touched on it earlier on, how it's all abandoned and grim nowadays. There's dog shit everywhere. You've got to look out for stinging nettles and animals in there, but look at what it used to look like, a proper good old school ground. And now this is their last ever game. I believe it was against Montrose, their last ever game at that ground. I think there was to be chat about them moving elsewhere. They were going to temporarily move to Stenhousemuir, which they did, but I think they've been in the Falkirk Stadium now for about 5 or 6 years, and I just struggle to see how a club of this size, East Stirlingshire, would ever be able to get a new ground and a new home of their own where they can start building from again.
I've been a director for 12 years, and we have, obviously that's seen us going from the Scottish League down into the Lowland League.
Yeah.
So there has been a big massive change in the way basically the day-to-day running of the club goes.
Yeah, and so obviously the stadium as well. Has it always been plans to move to a ground of your own again after leaving Furs Park? Or?
Well, I think ideally that would be the best thing, because the stadium, the facilities here are fantastic for us, but it's possibly a bit big for our needs.
Okay.
And it also it stops us doing things that we'd like to do, like community projects and stuff like that. Yeah. Things like that you can't really do when you've not got your own stadium.
I understand. And was there always a big rivalry between yourselves and Falkirk when you were both sort of competing in the same leagues?
I believe there was, but that was before my time. I'm not so sure the rivalry's there anymore.
Do you still have a lot of older fans from back in those days who still come and watch?
We've got a lot of our fans are old guys who have been there for the time we were in the top division. And what about the future of the club then? I've obviously spoken a lot about the past. What does this year, the next 5-10 years hold for East Stirlingshire? That we really couldn't answer. It's how long's a piece of string. I mean, if you look at the Lowland League, our aim is to get out of it, but it needs to be sustainable. And at the same time, we've got loads of the way the Scottish league system is. We've got clubs that are coming up into our league who are probably stronger than the teams that are potentially going to come down for the SPFL. I think there's teams in the east and the west who are stronger and probably have bigger budgets than League One teams, even arguably. Yeah. So it's getting harder and harder and harder, because I mean you're getting teams who are going to be that have got a bigger fan base. They've got their own grounds. Because if you look at the teams that are coming up and doing well, you've got Bonestell, Lithgow, Bonnyrigg, Kelty. Does it hamper you financially then not to have your own ground? Do you have to pay to? Yeah, we have to rent this stadium. Yeah. Whereas other teams who own their own ground can make revenue from their own ground. Yeah. And as I say, it's these clubs that have came up, one thing they've all got in common is a big community aspect. And you go to the grounds and it's just fully advertising hoardings. I don't want this video to come across as overly negative towards East Stirlingshire. Obviously what's happened to them
down the years isn't great. The relegation, leaving their ground, their old ground's abandoned. They now play here, the home of their rivals. But these clubs, every club I go to, I always have to give a shout out to the people that run it, the people that run the club currently, right now, volunteers who obviously without them the club couldn't run. And yeah, this video isn't to bash the club in any way, shape or form. My videos are never to do that. They are literally just to tell the stories of these football clubs. And I just find it interesting how there is a club in Scotland who were in the top tier, but they're now in the 5th tier. They're now a non-league club. They used to be a really big, reputable league club, but now they obviously play here, the home of their rivals. But despite all that, despite all the bad stuff I've told you that's happened to them down the years, they do now play in this stadium. Actually thinking about it, this has probably got to be the best stadium in the Lowland League.
I'm Wesley.
Hi, I'm Sebastian. I'm the chaplain here at East Stirlingshire.
And you're from Germany?
That's right. I'm from the north of Germany. You know, my home team is Eintracht Braunschweig, but obviously no, my Scottish team is East Stirlingshire.
How does a man from northern Germany come to work at East Stirlingshire?
Well, originally, you know, work brought me to Scotland.
Okay.
And then I got married to a Glaswegian woman, and so love kept me here, you know.
Nice, okay.
And then this topped up with East Stirlingshire. It's just brilliant, you know.
And how long have you been involved with East Stirlingshire then?
About 3.5 years, almost 4 years.
I know you were aware of a bit of their history, being a league club and obviously their old stadium as well?
I am, but to be honest, there's so much history I learn every day, you know.
Okay.
And it's good fun, you know, to be part of it.
And what would you think about East Stirlingshire continuing to play here for the future? Do you think there are going to be plans for the club to eventually move back to a stadium of their own?
I think the fans and the club deserves to have their own ground, you know, their own stadium, you know, their own little clubhouse, you know. We're really grateful, you know, to Falkirk and the council, you know, to give us this opportunity to play here. It's great facilities.
That's what I was going to say. On the flip side of not having your own ground, look at the
100%.
The pitch is amazing.
It's great, you know, and the teams enjoy that, you know, as well. But for the fans, I think their own stadium, which they could call home, would be great.
And what do you think about the Lowland League in general as well then? Like, do you think more people should come and watch football at this level?
Yeah, it's good to like support, like get money into the clubs and support, get behind them. You know?
Yep, of course. Yeah, it's great to see, isn't it? I think attendances seem to be up, and especially since COVID as well, I think more people are getting involved with football at this level.
Sure, yeah, we try to reach out, you know, to the communities, you know, to come, you know. We know in Scotland you've got Rangers, you've got Celtic, you know, they're lovely clubs.
Yeah.
But come on, support your local teams.
Of course, to anybody watching, get down here.
Yeah, amen.
That's the old Falkirk team there, would be. I suppose. Is there anything of East Stirlingshire in the halls then? No. That's a shame. What has just happened is East of Scotland Premier Division team Socky have gone 1-0 up here against East Stirlingshire. Here you go. So the last time I was up at this part of this stadium was Falkirk against Dunfermline last season, and we got a great view of the Dunfermline fans over there celebrating when they scored, because that's a huge rivalry. So this is the second time I've ever seen a game here, and yeah, the home side, East Stirlingshire, who obviously this video is about today, are now behind against Socky Juniors. When East Stirlingshire were last in the top tier in 1964, Socky Juniors were playing in an Eastern regionalised league against teams such as Tranent, who are now in the Lowland League. So they were playing against teams who have never been a league club. Socky Juniors have never been a league club. East Stirlingshire have been a top tier club, and they're now losing against Socky. And I don't want this video, again, I will say this again, I don't want this to come across as negative at all. I hope this video highlights the plight of East Stirlingshire, as well as like my other videos of other clubs that I've visited before, and I hope it encourages you, if you're local, or maybe you're not even local, just to, like, even if you're from bloody Australia, go and follow East Stirlingshire on social media. If you're from Falkirk, come and watch East Stirlingshire play, or if you're from Zimbabwe, why don't you manage East Stirlingshire on Football Manager? I'm not joking or exaggerating when I say that it has literally been raining since when I left my house to come to the abandoned stadium earlier. It's been raining non-stop since then, and it hasn't stopped once. And you can hear the rain, you can see the rain. It is an absolutely grim day. This is like 8,000 or 9,000 the capacity in here, which when you get a couple of hundred, just feels a little bit like a COVID game. In a kind of strange way, but yeah, amazing facilities, but probably just a little bit too big for East Stirlingshire. And obviously they can't make any money out of this. They're renting this off of either Falkirk or the council, whoever owns the stadium. They're renting it. I feel like they need a place of their own.
67, I used to go with the lads of the soccer club.
Why do you support East Stirlingshire?
I feel like that I've got to support a team from my hometown. I couldn't support Rangers or Celtic. I was involved in football for a while, so never really had a team. Yeah. And I used to watch the Shire.
It's hard when you work in football to actually get behind a team, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't really anticipate before I did this, but you work in it, you get involved with it. You don't really support a team, but now you're out of that, you want to support a team, and it's East Stirlingshire because it's local to you.
It is.
And they've just scored.
Oh, yes, get in.
Sorry that I made you miss it.
No, it's quite alright, So yeah, because I grew up in Falkirk, I used to go to First Park when Shire played there. I'd have been about 13, 14, 15 then, and I had just been like, a lot of good happy memories there.
Yeah, and that's the old abandoned stadium, which is actually where I started off this video today. What are your memories of that place?
I remember being very, very young, and there was a big bank of terrace behind the goals, and me and my pals from school just lying on the grass bank, just watching some games.
That's quality, and obviously this is a great facility for a team the size of East Stirlingshire if you think about the pitch, the changing rooms, etc. But do you think a team like East Stirlingshire would be better placed at a stadium of their own?
I'd love to see them go back to first, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's just grateful that we've got somewhere that we can play. That's the most important thing. And
just that they're continuing as a club. Was there a lot of worry around that time that they left there, that the club could potentially fold and stuff?
I think there was worry because I know there was a lot of financial implication when they had left, but I was quite young. I probably didn't understand the finances of football at that time because I was
who does now even?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I can see they're 1880 on the badge, and it's been a little bit turbulent. They used to be a top flight club for a couple of years. They've been a league club. They're now a Lowland League club. Where can you see them going in the future?
I feel just establishing themselves as a community outreach, as being a pillar of the community, and something that it's hard to kind of put into words, but just being somewhere that people can resonate with and support the local community, which is the most important thing.
If we were watching this game in 1974, Alex Ferguson would be stood in that dugout right now. It's currently extra time in this South Challenge Cup match, believe it or not. 1-1 after full time. It's a bit annoying because I have a busy day tomorrow, an early day tomorrow. But yeah, look, here we go. Here's the most capped player for Falkirk, winning 14 caps for Falkirk there, apparently, Alex Parker. And as we come around here, look, all these different things relating to Falkirk. This is, of course, Falkirk Stadium. That's a nice piece of art there, more Falkirk things, but it is just a bit of a shame how they don't have anything to signify that East Stirlingshire obviously play here as well. And again, oh look, Brockville Lounge. That's the name of Falkirk's old stadium, is Brockville. So that's a nod to that there. But yeah, it's just like, surely down this hallway here, they could have just something here to say that East Stirlingshire play here too. I know it's not their stadium, I'm not sure who decides these things, but would just be cool for them, I suppose. East Stirlingshire have turned it around. It's 2-1. Why couldn't they have just done that in the 90 minutes?